Hello everybody, my name is Kiara Papkin and this is my discussion board due March 3rd titled Orson Welles Video 4 to 5 Minute Project. So I do want to make sure that my thesis statement is very clear off the bat. I want to make sure that I'm implementing critical thinking and evidence for my arguments. So first off, we were asked the prompt, why and how did Orson Welles end up a struggling filmmaker when his film Citizen Kane is apparently the most important film ever made? Though Citizen Kane is indeed a very important film, and many would argue the most important film, many people feel that either Orson Welles was a genius that wasn't understood by the studio system, or that he was an egomaniac that sabotaged his opportunities and made it hard for himself to work within the studio system. Though I do agree that Orson Welles was a very brilliant man, I do have to choose the second option because my personal opinion is that Orson Welles did end up sabotaging his own opportunities, and this is why he was not given more film opportunities in the USA. I don't consider him to be necessarily a failed filmmaker, especially considering all of his successes. However, I do think overall he could have done so much greater if he had a little bit more humility and conducted himself in a different way. There are a lot of factors that go into why people are the way that they are, why they behave the way that they behave. So for my presentation, I want to focus primarily on where Orson Welles really went wrong, where things in his life really took a turn for the worse. And quite frankly, I think that starts at the very beginning. I don't think he ever really had a fair shot, and he was given some very bad cards from a very early age. There was a lot of devastation, and I'm sure this led to trauma. And I think as a result, this ultimately led to the downfall of his own success. I hope that this isn't only informative and meeting all the criteria asked, but also that it is pleasing to look at and that the overall video is, something a little interesting and unique.
Welcome the gentleman, please, Orson Welles.
So Orson Welles was born to his parents, Richard and Beatrice, and they had already separated by the time he was 4 years old. And then even shortly after that, they both died, so he was an orphan. At this time, he was adopted by someone named Maurice Bernstein, and this person was a very affluent doctor. He started to attend a prestigious all-boys school and became very close to the headmaster. So despite a lot of the tragedy that happened in his very early years, he was able to overcome and do a lot of great things in a very short period of time. He was only 25 years old when he made Citizen Kane, and it instantly became popular. It was already nominated for 8 Oscars within the first year. So from my perspective, we have this young kid that is already very disadvantaged internally and emotionally. He's not mature enough to really process how intense life has been. And at this ripe age, he's thrown into this booming industry. And it kind of just goes straight to his head. People described Orson Welles as being very powerful, but also very arrogant at times. Though he was considered a brilliant genius, he was problematic. I watched a lot of his interviews, and in one little clip, I did want to highlight this audio just so we could get a feel for his demeanor. This was posted on YouTube by Metasage 11 years ago. It's called Obscure Audio 2 Orson Welles Outtakes Frozen Peas, and I think it's very telling.
Good. Could I have one more go, Orson, please? Sorry.
What?
Could I have just one more take of that?
Why? I just did it right.
Yeah, Look, I'm not used to having more than one person in there. One more word out of you and you go. I just did it right. Yeah. Look, I'm not used to having more than one person in there. One more word out of you and you go. Is that clear? Yes, sir. But from two, I don't sit still. But who the hell are you, anyway?
You can clearly hear that he is bitter and angry, and it just gets worse.
I'm the engineer. Well, why the hell are you asking me for another one? Well, I thought there was a slight bonk, and I would just like to be safe. Jesus. What is a gonk? Do you mind telling me what that is? A bang from outside. A bang from outside.
Like, clearly this engineer was just trying to help him to get the best sound, and he was just being so rude, and you see this time and time again. Eventually, once William Randolph Hearst found out about Citizen Kane and how the movie was a poor depiction of his character, he set out to make his reputation straight and was not afraid to contact anyone he needed to contact in order to stop Orson Welles. This obviously, because Hollywood is a very interconnected network of people, this clearly led to the downfall of his career, but his attitude certainly did not help. It just added gasoline to the fire. Now, various people in the media were antagonizing Orson Welles because he was so easily upset. He was clearly so angry inside. Here's a short clip from Tomorrow with Tom Snyder, 1975, April 8th.
Do you think it's arrogant not to?
Well, I sometimes wonder. I don't know why you do not live here. And there...
Well, let me give you an answer.
All right.
I had to get some...
So now we get a real picture of why he wasn't taken seriously in the industry, especially towards the end of his career and the end of his life. This is what I think ultimately led to Orson Welles becoming an egomaniac that sabotaged his opportunities and made it hard for himself to work within the studio system. Ultimately, though he did not fail as a filmmaker, he just failed in the humility department of a person. I think that perhaps because he was a broken person or someone that hadn't developed properly over time, he just didn't have it in him to be the kindest person all the time. And as we all know, kindness and graciousness goes a long way. I hope that you enjoyed my presentation, and thanks for watching.